Hello, everyone. Welcome back to D1 Crashout. So, this is a follow up on the check in that I just made, day 10. And the general premise is you need to set priorities. You need to start at the root of your problems. You need to start at your foundation before you address the other symptoms of that root. And what do I mean by that? So, I think a very hot and contentious topic right now is AI, and a lot of people are getting really angry at the idea of AI, the AI developers, and the market for people who work in AI in general, just because it is very buzzy, it is very trendy, there is a lot of press about it right now, and it has been very innovative, and it has penetrated the market in such a way where the skills are almost indispensable, right? You now have to leverage AI tools and learn how to work with them in order to keep your place in certain job markets, right? People are very worried about humans getting replaced entirely, and that is why there is pandemonium about it, because some people who didn't choose to adapt or didn't know how or just straight up couldn't. And those are all very real concerns. However, this is I don't know if the political compass video made by Casually Explained, which talks about the three-dimensional part of political compass, right? You have your left and right, and then I think it's like more liberal and more conservative, and then your up and down is I forget, but there is a side where it is about technical progressivism and regressive, as in, do you want there to be more technology, we should always make the best technology, cutting edge technology, or do you want there to like, oh, we're just not living how we used to, we should return to being primal and primates? And that brings up the two sides where it's like having better cutting edge technology means that more people are going to have better access to medicine, you can improve the quality of life, right, by having better tools at your disposal, right? We don't have to deal with disease anymore. But like factory workers were out of jobs at one point, and then our front lines are being manned by drones right now, and the atomic bomb resulted in the deaths of thousands of millions of people, not millions, thousands of people. But we also got nuclear energy as a turn of getting new technology. We're getting closer and closer to renewable energy. We're at the cusp of gene editing, and people have been using it to prevent babies and STDs, sorry, babies, from babies developing certain diseases, especially preventing STDs from going down to the kid, and also preventing the kid from developing certain things such as autism and other brain problems and deficiencies. And these, you would say, are all great things. Some say, oh, the baby was destined for this, we shouldn't consider a disability a disability. But if you had to choose for your kid to have a disability or to not have a disability, I would hope that you would choose that they wouldn't have the disability. I would hope that people don't value natural selection so much that people who just get diseases or who are born unable are just destined to die. You know, you with a peanut allergy, maybe you just didn't deserve to live if you could just get killed by a peanut, which is a fun joke that a lot of people like to throw around, but it's a very, very pressing issue and concern when we start talking about technological progressivism, because people don't really know where to draw the line. And a part of the gambling mindset is you don't know where the technology is going to lead. We don't know if AI is going to replace everybody's jobs to the point where we either get owned by robots and rulers, or dystopia, or where it's more of an Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, where now everybody's job is meaningless because AI can do everybody's job for us, and we're just living out on the planet pursuing our own pleasures. And that could also mean giving ourselves arbitrary work in order to make people feel better. But the answer right now is that we don't know. You just pick a side and you take a guess, and we don't really know where to draw the line. So people are going to keep researching the new stuff, and there's going to be contention about it, and there's going to be competition, and that's going to inspire more growth, which is in turn inspiring to technical progressivism. But is the problem the root of technical progressivism itself, or is it a symptom of competition, which is a symptom of capitalism and the general competition in the market, where people are going to endorse something which results in more people gaining things, right? The rule with an iron fist, right? The person with the bigger stick wins. Having better technology means having a bigger stick, which means having control. And control, as in power, is king. Or rules, I should say. And that's kind of the whole point. Do you stop people from developing new technology, or do you get mad at the system of capitalism itself? When you, as an individual, feel like crap, and you are always tired, and you don't have the motivation, or the energy to go out, to have fun with people, to work on your passions, and go eat, then you ask yourself, is it a problem that I'm not? Is it a problem that I'm not going out and that I just personally don't have enough energy and I'm depressed? Or, and depressed defined as not having any motivation, I think that's the definition. Or is it because I'm not eating or hydrating myself or properly fueling? Or is it because that I'm not sleeping at night and I'm exhausted because I stacked my schedule too heavily? If you start sleeping, it'll help regulate your eating cycle so it becomes easier to eat. Sleeping gives you energy, right? It rests your mind, resets, and then maybe with the more energy and the better sleep, you would be better at regulating your behavior because it is harder to make decisions when you are incredibly tired. And that gets me to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Address the necessities first, and then you go to the aspirations, right? And then you rank your aspirations in terms of how important they are. Some people really value family. Some people honestly don't, and they can live without family. Some people really need their close friends. Other people are fine without a support group. So define for you what your priorities are and find out which bricks need to be on the bottom in order for you to stand on them and which ones do not. And that is a question that you need to ask yourself. But making those priorities makes it so you don't have this big symptomatic crash out and then you just follow the trail of symptoms and you never address the issue. That is the problem and the difficulty with healthcare right now and everything being reactionary, because reactionary is profitable and way easier on your end because you don't want to track everybody's individual lives. And that is also the problem with how people see and address life. It's like, oh, I got a job. It's all my fault. I suck. I'm terrible. Like, sure, there's more that you can do and do address that, but also recognize the fact that success is partially luck. And honestly, a lot luck. And so is the fact that you cannot control every single part of the thing that you are actually doing, right? It's like maybe you just weren't the first one there. Somebody got information before you, and whether that was up to an algorithm or whether that was up to how much you were on your phone, you just don't know. And there's just a matter of chance and luck in that. And the other part of it is like, oh, maybe you really do have a really crummy resume and you stand out more through the screening if you were just a better candidate. But there is a balance to that where you don't know the root cause in that situation, so you just have to maximize your odds of improving. But don't beat yourself up for it because that doesn't do anything for you getting a better job. And sure, you may not be able to control that, and that is completely normal. But when you experience things like failure, you need to take a step and actually address the problems that you can control, and that is building off control the controllables. And the idea of extremism, well, I'll talk about shortly, but I do want to mention it a little bit, is and when you go down this rabbit hole of, I'm like, okay, I couldn't get a job here, now let's go start walking door to door and doing stuff. You don't know what's successful because you haven't experienced success. So don't just throw away that other method that didn't work and then try to find the middle by going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Try something. And if it doesn't work, maybe it didn't work the first time. Now you need to reevaluate what the potential problems are, and then you can address the root if you can control it. If you cannot, then you're like, oh wow, this is a problem. Maybe this isn't worthwhile pursuing. Or you'd be like, okay, there's a problem, but there's also steps that I can control. I'm going to control those steps, and then once I've controlled those steps, I'm now going to still see if the problem that I can't control is more powerful than the ones that I could. And that's when you decide to give up on something. But you just have to try and experiment, and also it has to fit within your budget that you built off your bricks, right? In order to place a new brick on top of the ones, you shouldn't have to break every brick below it. Of course, people start anew. But in this case of this analogy, like you need the water and the food and probably the shelter because you might need an address, and the cell service because you might need your phone for job applications in this case, and all those good things like a resume and connections before you ever land the job. And if those symptoms are not addressed, why do you expect the new aspiration to work out? So I talked about it in terms of job search, talked about it on a little political scale for the progressivism, right? Sorry, if you want to know what my Crashout is about that, I personally do not believe that AI is the problem. Sure, it enables people to do things that do replace people's jobs, but people have always been chasing, the money instead of the virtue, and because it often pays off. The world is not fair. The virtuous person does not necessarily gain the most in this world, which, sure, you could argue that's unfortunate and it's not ethical and it's very sad, yes, but you got to do what you got to do to survive. You got to play the game. I already made a video about the love of the game. Described it a little bit differently, but that's the game. That's how you got to play. And we all have to play it, whether you like it or not. You got spawned in this world. So, getting back to the original point, application of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can read about it. It's very interesting stuff. I thought it was very worthwhile. Good life philosophy. But Make sure that you do not have to dig up your foundation in order to place more bricks or start new things. And also, even if it's difficult, make your problem solving productive. Yes, you can beat yourself up. Yes, you can feel like crap. Of course, these are human emotions. You can't control every single feeling that you will ever feel. But it is important to note that being sad and being unhappy about it might not be productive, as in, it might not do more for you. It might not solve your problems. But, or sure, if you try, there's a better chance than if you don't, which is zero. So, that is my crash out. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.